Reborn into this world by Saber Chapter 7, Emergence. Rimuru's demonstration to the Empire had been nothing short of a resounding success. His immense power, a blend of magical prowess and intelligence, had thoroughly convinced the top brass of his worth. Following this pivotal moment, the project surrounding him was officially dubbed Project Ascendance, marking a significant milestone in Shugel's research progress and the Empire's ambitious pursuit of harnessing Rimuru's capabilities. However, amid the high-level discussions and scientific concerns, an unspoken truth began to surface within the lab's sterile corridors. Dr. Shugel had become more than just Rimuru's handler or lead scientist. The lab staff unofficially considered him Rimuru's adoptive father. Surprising, I know. Who would have thought that the walking disaster, Dr. Shugel, is a father? Now, it's like encountering your crazy friend, being all reasonable and sound or something of that kind. This dynamic creates an odd and unsettling relationship. After all, Rimuru, a being with the potential to bring about catastrophic destruction, was seen as the adoptive child of a mortal scientist. Yet, this perception solidified as Shugel's treatment of Rimuru extended beyond mere scientific curiosity. He interacted with Rimuru not simply as a test subject, but as someone for whom he held genuine personal responsibility and care, a bond none of the other staff could replicate. "Have you seen how he is with Rimuru?" one researcher whispered to another during a coffee break. "It's like he actually cares for him." "It's bizarre," the other researcher replied, shaking her head. "We're talking about the most powerful living weapon, and he's treating him like a child." Yet, as weeks passed, Shugel's bond with Rimuru became increasingly evident. The scientist often speaks of Rimuru in fatherly terms. At first, the lab staff found this dynamic strange and even absurd, but over time, they grew to see it as genuine. Rimuru, typically cold and calculated with the other scientists, seemed calmer around Shugel. There was an undeniable shift in his demeanor whenever Shugel entered the room. The imposing entity would relax and even speak more openly, revealing a side of himself that was rarely seen. "Have you ever thought about what you'd like to do outside of this lab?" Shugel asked one day, leaning back in his chair as Rimuru pored over a complex set of equations. Rimuru looked up, his expression serious. "Knowledge is a tool. Just like power. I need to understand this if I'm to be of use." "True," Shugel conceded, his voice warm and encouraging, "but don't forget, life is more than just knowledge. It's about connections, too. Most kids your age are out playing or making friends, not buried in equations." Rimuru tilted his head, contemplating the thought. "Connections?" he echoed, a hint of confusion creeping into his voice. "Like, with others?" "Yes," Shugel replied, nodding thoughtfully. "You can't grow in a vacuum. You have immense potential, Rimuru, and it's important to find your place in the world beyond these walls." Despite the profound nature of Shugel's words, Rimuru found himself grappling with a burgeoning sense of uncertainty. His identity had always been intertwined with his power, and he wasn't sure what place he would occupy outside the confines of the lab. But Shugel's encouragement sparked something in him. A flicker of hope that perhaps he could be more than just a weapon. As their conversations deepened, Rimuru began to uncover fragments of memories that had long remained hidden. One afternoon, while absorbed in thought, he muttered to himself, "Tempest." The name lingered in the air, charged with an unexplainable energy. It felt both foreign and familiar, as if it was a key to something significant within him. Did you say something?" Shugel asked, leaning in with curiosity. Rimuru hesitated, searching for the right words. "Tempest. Titi's a name. That feels important, like it's part of me." "Tempest?" Shugel mused, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "That's an interesting name. Sounds like it evokes power, energy, perhaps even chaos." "Not just chaos," Rimuru insisted, a distant look in his eyes. "There's a creature in my memory. A giant lizard of some kind. Powerful and ancient." "Giant lizard? Sounds like a dragon, perhaps?" Shugel suggested, his voice filled with intrigue. Many legends speak of dragons as embodiments of strength and wisdom, especially in the realm of magic. If it resonates with you, it might be a part of your past that deserves exploring. Despite his efforts to recall more, Rimuru found the memory frustratingly elusive. The more he probed, the more questions surfaced. When he turned to Great Sage for clarification, he encountered a firm response. Less than sorry, Master. I have had to delete large portions of my stored data to preserve vital functionality. Greater than. That response left Rimuru feeling both hollow and curious. Who gave me that name? Tempest. He couldn't fully remember, and every time he tried to dig deeper, he felt the weight of something significant slipping through his fingers. Tempest. He murmured to himself, testing the sound. It feels like a weight, something heavy in the air. Shugal, sensing the turmoil within Rimuru, offered reassurance. Perhaps one day, we'll uncover the truth behind that name. Until then, embrace it as part of who you are, Rimuru Tempest. Though the mystery of his name lingered, Rimuru found solace in adopting Rimuru Tempest as his identity, both as a relic of his past and a symbol of the unknown future he was beginning to carve out. As months passed by, Project Ascendance had gained momentum, as resources as poured into the project. Dr. Shugal, ever obsessed with pushing the boundaries of magic and science, had created the Genesis Type 01. Ethereal Convergence, Operation Orb. A device so advanced it was almost incomprehensible. With the help of Great Sage, the orb became a better extension of Rimuru's magic, amplifying his already astonishing power. Rimuru's confinement, though still restrictive, had slowly evolved. Shugal became increasingly vocal about Rimuru's need for broader experiences beyond the sterile environment of the lab. After numerous appeals and negotiations, the Empire's highest officials, Generals Zetor and Rudersdorf, had granted Rimuru limited freedom within the facility. Shugal argued that Rimuru needed stimulation beyond the test chamber to thrive. Although it took several discussions and a few passionate pleas, Zetor and Rudersdorf eventually approved Shugal's request. However, they mandated that Rimuru be escorted at all times by 2 armed mages, not to protect him, but to ensure the safety of those around him. One warm afternoon, as the sun filtered through the large glass windows of the laboratory, Shugal found Rimuru gazing out at the training grounds. The boy's bright blue hair shimmered in the sunlight, and Shugal couldn't help but smile at how far Rimuru had come. Rimuru, how are you finding your new surroundings? Shugal asked, breaking the silence and leaning back in his chair, fingers steepled under his chin. It's different, Rimuru replied, his eyes still fixed outside. I can feel the magic all around me, and it's exhilarating. But sometimes, I feel trapped. Trapped, Shugal echoed, concern flickering across his face. You're not alone, Rimuru. You have us. And soon, you'll have more freedom. Rimuru turned to face him, a mixture of hope and uncertainty in his eyes. But will I ever be able to explore beyond these walls? As if answering his unspoken wish, Shugal's expression brightened. The generals have finally agreed to give you limited autonomy. You'll be able to wander the laboratory grounds, though you'll always have 2 armed mages with you. That sounds okay, I guess, Rimuru replied, the hint of a smile breaking through. But will I still be able to help with the research? Of course. Your input is invaluable, Shugal said with conviction. And I'll ensure they understand that you're a partner in this project, not just a tool. Shugal didn't stop there. He also advocated for Rimuru to receive formal education for Rimuru to learn essential subjects that in a funny sense aren't math and science, but subjects considered minor, being history, and other minor subjects. When asked by Zetor as to why Rimuru should be given formal education and even noble etiquette, Shugal replied, if he's going to serve the Empire, he should be prepared to walk among its elite, he asserted passionately. Appearance is everything in politics. He has more potential than we are currently seeing him as. He can be more than a just weapon. He can be a symbol for the citizens of the Empire. After some negotiation, this request was granted. Within the confines of the laboratory, Rimuru began studying under Second Lieutenant Elena, a young officer who had once been a professor before her own mage abilities were discovered. Initially met with skepticism by some of the staff, the decision soon proved fruitful as Elena became a frequent and beloved presence in Rimuru's life. Rimuru's education advanced rapidly, aided by his innate intelligence and the awakening of great sage within him. Elena found herself constantly amazed at how quickly he absorbed material, his mind a sponge for knowledge. One afternoon, while Rimuru immersed himself in imperial history, Elena looked over his shoulder. You've already finished the advanced coursework? That usually takes years for most students despite their intelligence. It's not that difficult, Rimuru replied, flipping through another page without looking up. I can easily understand the details. It's like reading a children's book again and again. Elena sighed, sitting across from him, her expression a mix of admiration and mild frustration. You know, you could slow down a little. Most people enjoy learning bit by bit. You're setting a record here. Maybe, Rimuru conceded, his brow furrowing in thought. But right now, I want to know everything I can. The more I understand, the more I can help. Help? She echoed, raising an eyebrow. In what way? Rimuru paused, contemplating her question. I want to understand the Empire's structure, its people. If I'm going to be a part of it, I need to know how to navigate it. Its history, culture and traditions, and its relationship with other countries. Elena smiled softly, a sense of pride swelling in her chest. That's a good mindset, Rimuru. Knowledge is power, but so is empathy. As you learn about the Empire, remember to learn about the people too. They're the ones who will shape your path. The bond between Rimuru and Shugal deepened as the days turned into weeks. However, the scientist's increasing influence over Rimuru had become so pronounced that his absence had noticeable effects on the lab's dynamic. During one such absence, when Shugal had to attend a prestigious conference abroad, the remaining lab staff found themselves caught in an unexpected power struggle. One of the senior researchers, feeling emboldened without Shugal's constant oversight, decided to take control. Rimuru, we need you to run another set of tests. Report to the testing chamber immediately. Rimuru's eyes narrowed, his expression instantly turning cold. No. The researcher blinked in surprise. Excuse me. Rimuru didn't flinch. His voice was calm but carried an unmistakable edge. I don't take orders from you. The silence that followed was palpable. Even the two mages assigned to escort Rimuru exchanged glances, sensing the shift in the room's atmosphere. Rimuru, who had always been cooperative, at least when Shugal was present, but it had suddenly become distant and assertive. His deference to authority seemed to apply solely to Shugal and, to a lesser extent, Zetor and Rudersdorf. But when Shugal wasn't around, none of the other scientists commanded the same respect. One of the armed mages, standing nearby, leaned toward his partner. Did you feel that? The air just got heavier. His partner nodded cautiously, eyes fixed on Rimuru. Yeah, I did. I don't think he's in the mood to be bossed around. The senior researcher, now visibly unsettled, muttered something under his breath and backed away. Fine, we'll postpone it, for now. Rimuru didn't even acknowledge the concession. Instead, he stood and walked calmly toward the exit, the two mages following behind like shadows. As he passed by them, one of the mages dared to speak. You don't really like them, do you? The mage asked in a low voice. Rimuru glanced at him briefly before continuing forward. They don't matter. Despite the chaos around him, Rimuru found a semblance of stability in his interactions with Generals Zetor and Rudersdorf. While his engagements with them were limited, he had witnessed their unwavering loyalty and dedication to Shugal over the years. They had risked much to further the project, fully aware of the dangers Rimuru represented. In the rare moments they spoke directly to him, their conversations were marked by pragmatism and a shared understanding. One particular exchange with General Zetor stood out in Rimuru's mind. After observing a particularly grueling test session where Rimuru had been pushed to the limits of his abilities, Zetor approached him. Your progress is remarkable, Rimuru, Zetor said, his sharp eyes never leaving Rimuru's face. But there's always more to learn. I expect nothing less than excellence from you. Rimuru, standing at attention, nodded curtly. If it helps the Empire, I will do whatever is required. Zetor allowed a small, approving nod. Good. Remember that. He paused for a moment, looking down at the clipboard in his hands before adding, the Empire is counting on you, Rimuru. Failure is not an option. Though Zetor's words were meant as encouragement, Rimuru felt the weight of their meaning. These men, as much as they respected him, saw him as a weapon, a tool to secure the Empire's future. But still, the respect between them was mutual, and in their own way, they treated him as something more than a mere experiment. You're not just a weapon to us, Rimuru, Zetor continued, his voice steady. You have the potential to be a leader. We need someone like you to unify and strengthen our forces. Rimuru considered this, a flicker of hope igniting within him. A leader? I've never thought of myself that way. Perhaps you should, Rudersdorf interjected, stepping forward. Great power often comes with great responsibility. You have the means to inspire others, to rally them to a cause. But what cause? Rimuru asked, genuinely curious. What am I meant to lead them toward? Zetor smiled knowingly. That's for you to decide, Rimuru. As you grow, your path will reveal itself. Just remember, you're not alone in this. With a newfound sense of purpose, Rimuru nodded. I'll do my best. And with those words, the journey ahead felt a little less daunting, intertwined with the lingering warmth of Shugel's guiding presence and the respect he had earned from the Empire's generals. In this complex tapestry of ambition, power, and identity, Rimuru began to understand that he was not merely a creation of the Empire. He was a force unto himself, destined to carve a path that was uniquely his own. A few years later, with Rimuru's formal education complete, the next stage of his journey unfolded. His entrance into Imperial Military School was met with both excitement and intrigue. Rimuru's official rank was kept under wraps, labeled as an A-rank mage, though his true abilities far exceeded that. The Empire's decision to mask his real power was strategic, ensuring that their ace remained hidden until the time was right. His enrollment into the Imperial Military Academy had a larger strategic purpose than just some educational purpose. The Empire, in the torment of a growing conflict with both the Republic of Francois and the Legadonia Entente alliance, and it needed every advantage it could muster. As tensions rose on multiple fronts, the Empire sought ways to prepare for the looming war, and Rimuru became a key part of that preparation. The Republic of Francois and the Empire had long been at odds over territorial disputes, but recent developments escalated these tensions further. Imperial spies reported that the Republic was quietly moving significant amounts of manpower and resources to strategic positions near the Empire's borders. This covert buildup of troops was a clear sign that the Republic was preparing for something larger, possibly an invasion or an aggressive military campaign. At the same time, the Legadonia Entente alliance, which had remained relatively neutral in the past, was now engaged in secret talks and dealings with the Republic. This clandestine relationship between the two nations was a cause of serious concern for the Empire. The Entente had historically been involved in minor skirmishes along their border with the Empire, but now, with their cooperation with the Republic, it seemed they were aligning to form a united front against the Empire. If these alliances solidified, the Empire would find itself surrounded by hostile forces on multiple fronts. With intelligence reports flooding in, it was clear that the Empire needed to act swiftly. The rising tension on the geopolitical stage, compounded by the covert military movements and alliances, forced the Empire's hand. They needed a decisive edge to counterbalance the growing threats on their borders. Thus, Rimuru's enrollment into the Imperial Military Academy was not just about furthering his education or honing his combat skills. It was a strategic decision. Rimuru's exceptional magical abilities, combined with his intellect and physical prowess, had already caught the attention of Imperial strategists. They knew he could become the key to tipping the scales in the upcoming war. Rudersdorf, Zetor, and the Empire's top military officials agreed that Rimuru's presence at the academy needed to be concealed. By positioning him as a normal cadet, they could keep his true potential hidden from the Republic's spies and from any potential traitors within their ranks. His enrollment would allow him to learn advanced tactics and warfare strategies while maintaining the guise of an ordinary soldier. Behind the scenes, however, they intended for Rimuru to become an elite officer capable of leading covert missions and engaging in high-level operations that could turn the tide of war. The Imperial Command knew that the Republic and the Entente were closely monitoring their military activities. Any indication of a new powerful asset in the Empire's ranks would draw unwanted attention, but they can't risk Rimuru to go rogue so as a compromise to their OPSEC. They continued to use the two armed mages as Rimuru's guard but also incited rumors of a child from a noble family joining the army. For the Empire, Rimuru represented more than just another promising officer. He was a weapon. An ace in the hole that could be deployed at the perfect moment. His enrollment at the academy was the first step in a much larger plan to prepare him for the coming conflict. With the Republic amassing troops and the Entente forging secret alliances, the Empire needed every advantage it could muster. Rimuru was their answer to the threats gathering at their borders, and his training would soon prove invaluable as the specter of war loomed ever closer. The rumors surrounding Rimuru's arrival at the academy only intensified as cadets and officers alike speculated about his origins. His striking appearance and enigmatic demeanor drew attention wherever he went, and his reputation grew rapidly among the students, creating a whirlwind of gossip that permeated the academy. "Did you hear about the new cadet?" one cadet whispered during an evening drill. his eyes darting towards Rimuru as he performed flawlessly in a sparring session. They say he's the son of some high-ranking general. Another cadet, glancing at Rimuru from across the field, shook his head, disbelief etched across his face. I heard he's from one of the Empire's elite noble families. He's too polished to be just a regular recruit. Rimuru, listening quietly as he adjusted the straps on his flight gear, heard the whispers but didn't react. He was used to the rumors by now. After all, with his smooth skin, captivating eyes, and the way he carried himself, it was no surprise that he had caught the attention of nearly everyone around him. But rumors weren't the only thing that followed him. During drills, Rimuru's performance was nothing short of extraordinary. His mana control, precision, and battle instincts were unmatched, and his peers soon realized that Rimuru was not just another cadet.
He's not just good, one cadet muttered during a sparring session, awed as he watched Rimuru deftly disarm his opponent. He's terrifyingly good.
The speculation didn't end with just his lineage. Some cadets had taken to calling him the Goddess of Beauty, a nickname that spread like wildfire after the first day when many had assumed he was female. The beauty of his features had enchanted many, casting a spell of admiration over the academy. "I can't believe he's a boy," a girl exclaimed, wide-eyed, as she and her friends watched Rimuru from a distance, their cheeks flushed with excitement. "He looks just like a goddess." Her friend, a bit more daring, added, "I wouldn't mind being saved by him in battle." Meanwhile, a group of boys standing nearby overheard. One of them scowled, crossing his arms defiantly. "What's so special about him? He's just some pretty face. How is he even a boy?" Another boy, equally envious, replied, "I swear, if I had those looks, I'd be unbeatable. It's not fair." The boys' frustrations only fueled the admiration from the girls, creating an environment ripe with competition and rivalry. On occasions like Valentine's Day, Rimuru would receive numerous chocolates and letters, each one bearing sweet words from his admirers. He sighed inwardly as he sorted through the gifts one afternoon, a playful frown on his face. "How should I even approach this? Less than it is best to accept the gifts to prevent any chaos from the girls." "Master, greater than great sage," chimed in, offering its guidance. "I guess that's true." Rimuru mused, a reluctant smile breaking through his exasperation. In the end, he accepted them with a gracious smile, unsure of how to respond but appreciating the gestures nonetheless. The influx of attention and gifts was both flattering and perplexing. He found himself smiling more often, even as he pondered how to navigate this new world where admiration and rivalry coexisted so openly. It was a balance he had never experienced before, and it both excited and baffled him. Among his peers was Tanya Degoretshev, a girl who stood out not only for her golden hair and piercing blue eyes but also for the sharp, intense aura that surrounded her. While many cadets felt intimidated by her fierce reputation, Rimuru's calm demeanor didn't waver in her presence. He had heard whispers about Tanya, rumors of her exceptional prowess on the academics and training, her ruthless efficiency, and her unnerving ability to strategize like a seasoned officer despite her age.
Tanya, on the other hand, had also heard about Rimuru. She had been observing him from a distance, intrigued not by the rumors of his beauty but by the air of quiet confidence he exuded. There was a unique stillness about him, a composure that contrasted sharply with the swirling chaos of gossip around him. Despite his delicate appearance, she sensed something far more dangerous lurking beneath the surface. It was as if he held secrets that could shake the very foundations of the academy.
With her sharp gaze, Tanya assessed Rimuru's every move during drills, her curiosity growing stronger with each passing day. Unlike most cadets who were content to bask in the attention and admiration, he carried himself with a grace that spoke of greater experience and purpose. Tanya could sense the power behind his serene facade, and it both intrigued and unsettled her. As their paths crossed more frequently, Tanya felt an undeniable pull towards Rimuru. There was a challenge in him, a mystery that beckoned to be unraveled. But she also recognized the complexity of her own feelings. Admiration mixed with a desire to test him, to see just how deep his strength truly ran. It wasn't long before Tanya made her approach. It was during a break between drills, the sun casting long shadows across the training field. Rimuru stood at the edge, casually leaning against a tree, his two mage escorts standing nearby, ever watchful but unobtrusive. Tanya's keen eyes didn't miss the subtle control Rimuru had over his surroundings. Every glance, every movement seemed calculated, deliberate, She appreciated that kind of tactical awareness. Without a hint of hesitation, Tanya walked up to him, her arms crossed over her chest, her eyes sharp. "You're different from the rest of these cadets," she stated bluntly, skipping any pleasantries. Rimuru turned his gaze towards one of the guards to check if this conversation is to be allowed. The guard did a small nod. So Rimuru turned back his gaze towards her, meeting her eyes with a calm, unreadable expression. "I could say the same about you," he replied, his voice as composed as ever. Tanya smirked, unfazed by his response. Most cadets would have been flustered or defensive, but not him. "You don't belong here, do you?" she pressed, her curiosity getting the better of her. There was something more to Rimuru than just a talented cadet. He carried himself like someone with far more experience than anyone their age should have. Rimuru's eyes narrowed slightly, though his expression remained calm. "Neither do you," he said, turning the question back at her. He had noticed the way she conducted herself, far too disciplined and precise for someone simply going through the motions of military training. Tanya chuckled, amused by his perceptiveness. "Touché. But I'm not the one walking around with an entourage." She nodded toward his two silent companions, clearly aware they weren't just ordinary soldiers. Rimuru's gaze flicked to his escorts, a small, almost imperceptible smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "It's more of an inconvenience than anything," he said, his tone light, but there was a hidden truth in his words. He was under constant watch, but not because he needed protection. Tanya's eyes glinted with interest. She liked games of strategy, and Rimuru was presenting himself as an intriguing puzzle. "You're hiding something," she stated, tilting her head slightly. "But you're not the only one with secrets." Rimuru's smile widened ever so slightly. "Aren't we all?" For a moment, there was silence between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Both Tanya and Rimuru seemed to be sizing each other up, each recognizing something in the other, a shared understanding that they were both far from ordinary. Tanya finally broke the silence. "I wonder how long you'll last here." There was no malice in her tone, only a genuine curiosity. Rimuru had already shown he wasn't like the other cadets, but she wanted to see how deep his strength went. Rimuru didn't flinch at the challenge. "I'll manage," he replied, his calm confidence unwavering. Tanya nodded, her expression turning serious for a moment. "Don't get too comfortable, though. The battlefield is far less forgiving than this academy." Rimuru's gaze softened, as if remembering something. "I'm well aware." Tanya studied him for a moment longer before turning to leave. "We'll see," she said over her shoulder, her tone as cryptic as always. "Keep your eyes open, Tempest. I'll be watching." As she walked away, Rimuru's eyes followed her briefly before he returned his attention to the field. There was something about Tanya that intrigued him, too. Her tactical mind, her relentless determination, they were qualities he respected. But just like her, he wasn't one for unnecessary small talk. The interaction left both of them with a sense of mutual understanding. Neither of them would back down from a challenge, and neither would reveal their full hand too soon. This wouldn't be the last time they crossed paths, and both of them knew it. A month passed by. The time had come for Rimuru to prove his worth in the eyes of the Imperial Army. After excelling in his formal military education, surpassing even the most seasoned cadets with his intelligence and combat capabilities, the final hurdle stood before him. A field operation designed to test his leadership, combat skill, and ability to handle high-stakes situations. For Rimuru, this mission would determine his ascension to the rank of captain and becoming a commissioned officer. A.N. Rimuru is on a fast promotion because war's coming and I ain't gonna give all the moment on each of his ranks. That's gonna take me forever. Unlike other cadets, whose final evaluations were carried out under supervision, Rimuru's test was classified an exercise so secretive only the highest-ranking officers in the Empire were aware of its true nature. Lieutenant General Rudersdorf and Lieutenant General Zedor personally oversaw the operation. It was their way of ensuring Rimuru's exceptional capabilities were truly battle-tested before granting him a formal place in the Empire's command structure. In a small, dimly lit room, Rimuru stood before Rudersdorf and Zedor. The two officers exchanged a glance before Zedor addressed him. "Rimuru Tempest, you've passed every academic challenge and outperformed your peers in tactical simulations. Now, you'll undergo a live combat test. This isn't just another drill. It's a mission that, if successfully completed, will determine your future as an officer." Rimuru nodded, his face calm but focused. "I understand, sir." Your target is a strategic point held by forces simulating the Francois Republic, Zetor continued. You will lead a small team of elite mages to neutralize the enemy's forward base, disrupt their communication lines, and extract critical intelligence. You will not have external support. It's all on you. Rimuru listened intently, mentally preparing for the task ahead. This will be your moment of truth, Rimuru, Rudersdorf added, his voice heavy with meaning. Succeed, and you'll be promoted to captain. Fail, and... well, failure is not an option. Zetor leaned forward. You'll also be given a codename. Angel 01. From this moment, that is how you will be identified in all future military operations. It signifies your role in the Empire, both as a figure of power and as a symbol. Angel 01, Rimuru echoed, tilting his head slightly. Why that name? Zetor's expression remained neutral. Because you are more than a soldier, Rimuru. To the Empire, you're a force that brings either salvation or annihilation. Like an angel, you will descend upon the battlefield and deliver victory. But it's also meant to conceal your identity. The public and our enemies will never know the full extent of your abilities. Rimuru said nothing, absorbing the weight of the name. It felt strange. A being as dangerous as him, called an angel. But if that was how the Empire saw him, he would live with it. The mission was designed to push Rimuru to his limits. His team consisted of 5 seasoned mages, all of them older and more experienced in combat than him, but this was his operation. They would follow his lead. However, unlike usual operations, this time they wouldn't be using their mage gear during most of the operation, acting as a last resort. The reason? The enemy had started using equipment that could detect magic signatures and had calibrated it specifically to the Empire's mage unit's mana frequencies. The use of mage suits would have instantly triggered their detection systems. This put a significant constraint on Rimuru's team, limiting their use of magic and forcing them to rely on their physical prowess and stealth. We're going in without the use of our mage gear, Rimuru briefed his team. The enemy's detection system is too advanced. We can't risk using magic unless absolutely necessary. One of the older mages, a man with a deep scar running down his jaw, raised an eyebrow. We're going in blind, then? Rimuru's gaze was steady. Not blind, just careful. The insertion was carried out at night, under the cover of darkness. The terrain was rough, a dense forest leading up to the enemy's forward base, nestled on a hill with natural defenses. Rimuru quickly analyzed the situation using his heightened senses and the support of Great Sage, calculating the most efficient route to the base. As they moved through the forest, Rimuru gave hand signals, directing his team to take up strategic positions around the perimeter. His orders were clear and concise, and though the older mages were initially skeptical of following someone so young, they quickly realized that Rimuru's calm authority was backed by unparalleled skill.
They moved swiftly and silently, taking out the guards with precision. Rimuru personally led the charge, using his enhanced physical abilities to neutralize enemies before they could react. His team followed in perfect synchronization. Just as everything seemed to be going smoothly, something went wrong, an unexpected variable. One of the enemy's detection devices, hidden underground, had detected residual mana signatures from Rimuru's team, even though they had avoided using their mage gears.
The alarms blared, and the base immediately sprang into action. Enemy forces scrambled to defend their position, deploying their elite mages and setting up defensive barriers. Rimuru's mind raced. This hadn't been part of the plan, but he quickly adapted. Change of tactics, he ordered, his voice sharp but calm. We're going in head-on. We can't avoid them now. I'll take point, draw their attention. You cover me from the flanks. One of the older mages, a veteran of countless battles, looked at Rimuru in surprise. You're going to lead the charge? Rimuru's eyes gleamed with confidence. Trust me, this will work. He moved with blinding speed, drawing the enemy mages' attention as they fired off spells and magical projectiles. Rimuru weaved through them effortlessly, his reflexes and agility far beyond what anyone expected. His team flanked the enemy, taking down their defensive positions while Rimuru created a diversion. Within minutes, the base was secured and all information were taken and was rigged with traps and sorts to keep the Republic from recapturing the base fully, leaving it useless for them to use. The mission was a resounding success. Rimuru's team extracted the intelligence, neutralized the enemy, and returned to the extraction point without a single casualty. It was a flawless operation, executed with the kind of precision that even the most seasoned officers would envy. Back at the debriefing, Rudersdorf and Zetor awaited Rimuru's return. When he entered the room, still in his field gear, the two officers exchanged a glance, clearly impressed. "You exceeded our expectations," Rudersdorf said, his usual stern demeanor softening for just a moment. "You led your team flawlessly, and your strategic thinking was exceptional." Zetor stepped forward. "Angel 01, Rimuru, as of this moment, you are officially promoted to the rank of captain." He pinned the new insignia onto Rimuru's uniform. "This codename is not just a formality anymore. It's a testament to your strength, both as a leader and as a mage."
Rimuru accepted the promotion with his usual calm demeanor, though there was a sense of pride behind his composed exterior. "Thank you, sir," Rimuru replied, nodding to both men.
As Rimuru left the room, now officially Angel 01, he couldn't help but reflect on the name. It was strange, almost ironic, but perhaps fitting in a way he hadn't initially realized. In the Empire's eyes, he wasn't just a weapon or a soldier. He was something more, an unseen force that would shape the future of the battlefield. But that was only the beginning. With his exceptional mind and power, Rimuru's potential within the Empire was limitless. His future role would only grow as the looming threat of war drew closer. His next operation was already in the making. Before that, Rimuru will soon go and take another step and enroll into the prestigious War College. And there he will meet Rirugan, a freshly promoted major, and the man who will soon meet both the devil and God.